Right now, outside your window, someone is watching you. They know what time you leave for work. They know which path you walk to the train. They recognize the sound of your car's engine, and if you've ever crossed them, they know exactly what your face looks like. We see them every single day. They are so woven into the fabric of our daily lives that we dismiss them as mere background noise, just scavengers, pests, or simple birds looking for a leftover meal in a dumpster. But science is beginning to prove that the crow is not just another bird. Underneath those sleek, iridescent black feathers lies a mind that is actively observing, calculating, predicting, and remembering our every move. While we built our towering concrete jungles, they didn't flee. They adapted. They set up a parallel civilization right alongside ours. They operate in a secret world of their own, utilizing complex logic, passing down oral history, holding court, and harboring grudges that span generations. To understand the terrifying depth of a crow's mind, we have to look at a landmark experiment conducted at the University of Washington. Researchers wanted to answer a deceptively simple question: can a crow recognize an individual human face? To test this, a scientist put on a distinct caveman-style mask. He then captured a small group of wild crows on campus, banded their legs for identification, and released them completely unharmed. To the crows, this masked figure was an immediate threat. It was a predator. Later, when the same scientists walked through the crowded campus wearing the caveman mask, behaving completely normally, carrying no traps, and doing absolutely nothing aggressive, the crows went wild. They screamed, dived at his head, and sounded a collective alarm that echoed across the quad. But the researchers wanted to make sure the crows weren't just reacting to any mask. So, they introduced a control. They had another researcher walk around wearing a completely different mask, a depiction of United States politician Dick Cheney. The results were startling. The crows completely ignored the Dick Cheney mask. They walked past it, ignored the wearer, and went about their day. But the second the caveman mask appeared, the entire sky turned hostile. But here is where the story shifts from a simple scientific study to something deeply chilling. Years passed, a decade went by. Eventually 15 years had passed since the original trapping. The original crows that had actually been captured by the caveman had long since grown old and died. Yet, when a researcher walked across that campus wearing the caveman mask, they were instantly swarmed, bombed, and shrieked at by dozens of angry crows. How is this possible if the original witnesses were dead? The answer is cultural transmission. The original crows had taught their children, their mates, their neighbors, and their friends to hate that specific face. They had passed down a legend, an oral history of a monster that roamed their woods. The young crows who had never once been touched by a human learned not to fear and attack the face because they trusted the stories of their elders. Think about the implications of that. If you upset a crow today, whether by throwing a rock, shooing it away from your garden, or getting too close to its nest, you aren't just making an enemy for the afternoon. You are making an enemy of their entire lineage. You are writing your face into their history books as a villain. They never ever forget a face. For centuries, humanity comforted itself with the belief that we were unique. We defined ourselves as the sole tool makers of the planet, believing that our ability to manipulate the physical world set us completely apart from the animal kingdom. But in the deep quiet corners of the world, the crow has been quietly practicing its own school of engineering. When faced with a challenge, a crow doesn't just look for a tool, it designs one. If a stick is too straight to reach a fat grab hidden deep inside a tree trunk, the crow doesn't give up. It will hold the stick down with its foot, use its beak to bend the tip into a precise hook, strip off the excess leaves to reduce drag, and go to work. This isn't instinct, it is creative, improvisational engineering, and their genius isn't confined to laboratories. They are actively hacking our cities to make their lives easier. In Japan, crows faced a problem. They loved eating tough-shelled walnuts, but their beaks weren't strong enough to crack them, and dropping them from high heights didn't always work on soft soil. So they studied us. Crows began placing hard walnuts directly in front of the tires of stationary cars waiting at red lights. When the light turned green, the cars drove forward, crushing the shells perfectly. But the crows didn't stop there. Retrieving the cracked nuts from moving traffic was dangerous, so they synchronized their timing with our traffic lights. They only place the nuts when the light is red, and they only fly down to retrieve the food when the pedestrian walk signal turns green, safely marching alongside human pedestrians to collect their prize. They are using our multi-million-dollar transport systems as their personal nutcrackers. In cognitive science labs, crows have been subjected to the most complex multi-stage puzzles ever designed for animals. In one famous test, a crow had to use a small, inadequate stick to pull a stone out of a cage, drop that stone into a heavy box to release a longer stick, and then use that longer stick to finally reach a piece of food. The crow solved it on its very first try. They didn't guess. They sat silently for several minutes looking at the entire puzzle, planning all 8 steps in their mind before they even touched the first tool. They can visualize a future that does not yet exist. They possess a working memory and logical understanding that rivals a 7-year-old human child, all packed into a brain the size of a human thumb. Perhaps the most haunting, almost spiritual aspect of the crow's world is how they deal with the concept of death. When a crow dies, it is rarely left alone to decay. A single scout will discover the body and let out a unique, solemn alarm. Within minutes, the call spreads. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of crows will fly in from kilometers away, perching in the surrounding trees, but they do not fight. They do not look for food. Instead, they sit in absolute eerie silence, staring down at their fallen companion. For a long time, early naturalists believed these gatherings were funerals, that these birds were mourning their dead, feeling a primitive form of grief, and perhaps, in their own emotional way, they are. But modern science has discovered that this gathering actually serves a much more practical, survival-driven purpose. It is a forensic investigation. The crows are conducting a cold, calculating hazard assessment. They are analyzing a crime scene with the meticulousness of seasoned detectives. They aren't just looking at their fallen peer. They are studying where the body is lying, checking for signs of struggle like scattered feathers or broken twigs, and scanning the surrounding canopy for the lurking shadows of hawks, owls, or a human with a weapon. By gathering and communicating in these massive, solemn assemblies, they are trying to solve a single vital puzzle. What killed our friend, and how do we make sure it doesn't kill us?